Hey guys, what's up? So this is my grinded in list. It's pretty solid. I've been doing quite well with it. It carried me to Masters. And I've been grinding some rank with it, playing in like some of the lower Masters. Got from like, started at like 120, ended up at 70. I'm sure if I kept playing, I'd get even further. But the premise of the deck is pretty simple. We're playing a lot of units that either sacrifice well or make a ton of units and go wide. And then what that does, it makes cards like Shadow Sketch and Scraptank better. And since we're playing a ton of Grenadin, Gearcruncher gets pretty good, creates a ton of bodies. You know, if you've played even one Scraptank and like a Recycle, and all of those units die, that's like a Gearcruncher making 6 guys. So you don't even really need to be making that many bodies with Gearcruncher for it to be good, because then like you're gonna Sinister Rumors back your stuff and like play it again, and the first Gearcruncher basically sets up the second Gearcruncher to be insane. Metal Fang is insane at closing out games and just winning board stalls in general. Being a 5/4 with flying and charge and lifesteal, it'll come down and like bop your opponent in the face with the deal 3 and then hit them for 5. So this will either gain you 3 life and then gain you 5 life, or put you 10 points of damage ahead on the race and then bop your opponent for 3. As for fixing, I chose to play Wyatt and Call the Hit as my inscribed cards. Call the Hit hits very important units out of Horu lists. Any aggro deck, you'll be really happy to have Call the Hit. Just being able to 1-mana kills things super huge for slowing them down so that we can get to our, value cards before they kill us. And you also want like a nice split of like inscribed cards from each faction. That way you guarantee like you're hitting your power drops and don't just have like a billion shadow and no fire, or a billion fire and no shadow. Wyatt's great because we're going super late in this game. Some of the goodness of Wyatt gets kind of negated by how high our top end is, but if you're at 9 power, and I did this a few times actually, and you spend 3 mana to discard a card and like, or to draw a card, and you rip like a Metal Fang off the top of your deck, you just win the game on the spot, usually. So the power of Wyatt cannot be untold. I cannot hype up Wyatt enough. There's definitely other good inscribe options, but I think how many games Wyatt will just win on his own compared to just like Call the Hit, like how many good hits there are, and just the consistency these cards provide just makes it the best fixing, in my opinion, for this kind of deck. Other than that, Face of Betrayal is insane. It's very underrated, underplayed, in my opinion. When I was playing in the event, the LCQ, it certainly won me more than a few games. One of the cool things you do with this is you steal a guy, and then like Rat King is the most efficient way of doing it. So you steal a guy and you just attack with it, and if they don't block it, even on its own, it's pretty funny because it puts them in this scenario where they have to decide if they want to let you get a random card off the top of their deck. So if they don't have like a 1/1 to trade off and like just sacrifice, you might have them in a scenario where like they have to choose to like trade their units with their own units. Now, barring that, another thing that can happen is they could have a really big flying unit that's just beating your face, and you steal it and just kill them with it, which is funny. So this card is its floor can be pretty bad. Like sometimes they have like a bunch of 1/1s and it just does nothing, and you don't have any sacrifice units to capitalize. But then there's games where you play this and it literally wins you the game on its own. Like nothing else you did that game mattered, but you stole their big guy and killed them with it. Or you stole their guy and then flipped like a bomb off the top of their deck and just beat them with it. So this card is high variance, You never know what you're going to get. You might get a land, you might get a Stormhalt plating, which I did do before, which is hilarious. Just a lot of different options. As for like the other slots, Twisted Farmer and Rat King are just insane. These guys go super wide and help make sure we've got Devour and Recycle targets. Zito's stupid. There are games you win just because you played 2 or 3 Zitos and like your opponent just cannot keep up with the card advantage, which is silly, but it's a world we live in. Then other than that, we've got Sinister Rumors, acts as removal early on, but where this really starts to shine is if you can like bring back a Wyatt with it, or bring back a massive Scrap Tank, or you know, Metal Fang, kill them, Gearcruncher, kill them, like a lot of excellent options. I mean, we almost have a scenario where Zito is the worst option, which is crazy because Zito's usually the best option. We're choosing to place Shadow Sketch over Rune because we go super wide, and being able to pump our team can be good. There is an argument for just playing Rune anyway, so that you can like pump a Scrap Tank. But honestly, Scrap Tank's job really isn't to just win the game on its own. His job is to come down on 5 and get absolutely huge and just hold down the fort, basically. So you could play Rune over Shadow Sketch, but I think Shadow Sketch is going to be better most of it, probably like 70% of the time. There's definitely games where Rune's better. You can't really afford to play both though, because you do want some sigils so that Zito comes down turn 1 like some of the time. So that's kind of where I'm at, but in a world where we don't care about Zito coming down on turn 1 all of the time, I would honestly do something like this and play I would play like 0 Rune of Flame and like 5 Fire Sigils. I would do like this, and then I would just play only the shadow cards. So you could do this, but what you're basically doing is guaranteeing that Zito never comes down turn 1. Like you have 5 lands that make it happen. I'll leave that up to you if you choose to do that. Just know that that is an option. I don't think it's a good option, but it's an option. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here. It's a pretty cool deck. I did have, and people have actually asked me about this, I did have that Hearth Smasher card originally in this deck. And what I realized, I think its name is Hearth Smasher. Let me see here. Yeah, Hearth Smasher. And that's the 4/4 that like when your units die, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. What I realized is while that card was decent, we make so many units and so many bodies in the void that I realized that Fall to Ruin is just going to be better most of the time, because in our deck it's like the Magic the Gathering card Plague Wind, where you just destroy all of their units and your units get to stick around. So being both a way to just protect you from whenever you're losing the board really bad, or a way to just one-sided board wipe your opponent's life away, it's pretty solid. So that's kind of where we ended up. Deck's consistent, you'll win games with it, and I'm happy with it.